as people age, can they still add muscle and bone density and those types of things? And where might be the upper range limit of that, where that would be possible?
Got it. Yes, there is perfectly ample suggestion available out there that even octogenarians can significantly increase their muscle mass with appropriate hypertrophy training. Obviously, they're not going to respond like they did when they were an 18-year-old kid, of course, but they can definitely stave off the results of the sarcopenia that is generally well established in a Western living 80-year-old. I think there's a genetic range of what a person's body will do naturally. And so some people might be outliers that are able to put on and hold muscle mass well into their 80s at a much better level than the next person, shall we say. So that's going to be a range, I would suspect, on that. Is it worth doing? You bet, in terms of your strength, function, range of motion, abilities, vestibular, maintenance of your vestibular system, which can start to wane as you start to get old. And certainly also in giving you the wherewithal and ability to avoid falls.
Yes.
Falls
Which is
a huge killer. And it's not the fall that will kill you, it's the results of the fall afterwards, like breaking the neck of your hip bone, neck of femur, having that damage your tissues in such a way that there's a hematoma that floats around in your body as a clot, and then that later gets jammed in the lungs or the heart or the brain and you're dead.
Yes.
Not because you fell over and broke your hip, but because
I read recently.
Yeah.
Yes, the mortality rate for people that break their hips is to die, and it was within just a fairly short number of years. It was huge. It was you break your hip, and it's not good after that. I've heard you speak on exercise. Generally speaking, at least, it's walking or a fairly low number of reps to failure, and really not too much in between.
Yeah, I steer people away from the middle intensity stuff, the long, slow distance endurance training, so-called cardiovascular training that many trainers and many athletes are very, very fond of. I tell people to stay the hell out of that, frankly. I don't think that's a good thing to be doing.
And it may be detrimental. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and there are reasons behind that. That's another whole discussion, really, as to what all of those issues are. What it basically boils down to is, once again, looking at the way the human body has evolved and the tasks that we would typically ask of that body, which have informed its design. And there are very few adaptations in humans that would make any comparative anatomist who's aware of the capabilities physiologically of various different species. We're a joke, is what I'm telling you, in terms of our capacities. We are not designed for that kind of thing. That is not our bread and butter. We are burst and repeat, outthink, outplay, out-strategize, use our brains, communicate with one another, move quickly to task. Yes, we had to move at a relatively good pace to keep up with the fit and rest, fist and ret. You know what I mean? That thing. Right. Fit and rest, yes. Because the herds of prey animals would be aware of humans and try to keep ahead of them. They would burst away at a pace the humans couldn't hope to keep up at, and then rest, and so the humans would have to jog it out. But I don't think it was like how endurance-trained humans are today. I think it was remotely like that at all.
Yeah, we weren't running down over long distances prey.
Right. Yes.
We were walking, finding, maybe sprinting, for a time or whatever, but not.
Yeah.
We weren't running 26 miles to track it down, right?
No, we weren't. We weren't doing that. So yeah, I tell people to stay out of that particular zone of things. I'm a fan of high intensity burst and repeat exercise 4 times a week for 45 minutes at a time. Either burst and repeat and or resistance training is good stuff.
If people, though, if they did want to build endurance, will walking with a weighted vest, or doing the doing some weight training 3 days a week, that's really high intensity, where you're doing 8-10 reps to failure on full body, taking 2 days off, will that actually build some endurance also? Or would they just need to, if you want to play basketball, go play basketball, and after you do that for a few months, you'll actually build some endurance doing it?
Yes, all fitness capacities are very specific to activity at hand. A person, a very common question I get asked for someone, like, they'll say, I am a boxer, what's the best way to train for boxing? To which the answer is, get in the ring and spar.
Box. That's what you want to do it.
Yeah.
You want to play tennis, go play tennis.
I'm dead keen on soccer. How should I get fit for soccer? Go play soccer. Oh, but don't I need an aerobic base? No, that's a fallacy. That's also for another day, probably. It's a whole discussion by itself. The fundamental misunderstandings that are out there in terms of exercise physiology and how it works. It's what actually underpins most of the misinformation. That's a sad thing, but there it is.
So do what you love to do, and you will get better doing it, both coordination, strength-wise, endurance-wise. Don't kill yourself on the first day.
That's it. Progressive, sensible application of pushing your current physical capacity close to, if not to and over, its current maximum ability, and then allowing it enough rest and recuperation before you repeat that, allowing your body to gradually heal from these micro insults, these micro injuries. That's what getting fitter is. It's a response, a chronic response of repairing your body slightly better than it was before you damaged it. So if your training is not at an intensity that causes a damage to your body that would precipitate the need for your body to get better, fitter, why would it? And by the same token, if you say to me, look, I desperately want to be one of the world's best 5,000 meter runners, I would tell you to train completely differently to what everybody else in the world just about is suggesting. Does that mean I'm wrong? Well, it's up to you to decide. I have worked successfully with a number of both professional and sub-professional athletes over the years and got some pretty good results out of it. Why aren't they telling you about it? Well, because you give an athlete a competitive advantage. Of course, they want to keep it to themselves. But at the end of the day, if you're telling me you want to be the best 5,000 meter runner, I'm going to tell you not to ever run more than 5,000 meters in any one given session ever.
Which is the exact opposite.
They're all going to tell you, go and do the miles, go and do more miles, go and run 15Ks, go and run 20Ks. No, don't do that. Because in order to do that, you have to run slower than you would run 5,000K. It's a thing called critical velocity. It's a regression line that predicts how much work a person can do at maximum over a given period of time. And it works out to a slope on a line that with running anyway, that tells you how fast you can run at different periods of time that would cave you in, is what it means, basically. And as such, because you're running slower, you're not, A, training at the specific speed of running that you want to be good at, and all fitness is specific, including speed, force of the muscle contraction. But also, B, what I was just talking about, if the stress on your body at running at 5K competitive pace is obviously higher than the minute by minute, second by second stress of running at 10, 15K pace. Ergo, you're not doing damage to your body by training down there. Ergo, what training do you think you're getting? Oh, it grows lots more mitochondria, they say. So does high-intensity training. At a fraction of the time cost, a fraction of the drudgery of that kind of training, do we get the same results with athletes by training them with vastly less volume than they're told they need at a much higher intensity than they're told they should train at? You bet.
Yeah, and you can do wind sprints, sprinting, interval sprinting, which actually provides in a fraction of the time the same benefit as actually slow long running, right?
Yes.
Again, as a person gets older, obviously the recovery is different. Yeah. So again, a lot of people that will watch this probably are going to be my age or somewhere around that, coming out of pretty unhealthy.
Yeah.
48 hours, is that enough? I mean, if they're really doing something that pretty strenuous, I mean, really to failure, should they be doing this 2 days a week, maybe 3 days a week at the most?
The rule of thumb for me is that if it hurts, I'm not training it. Okay. Because if it hurts, it's damaged and is in the process of healing. And if it hasn't had time to heal yet and I go and damage it some more, then I'm not getting fitter over time. I'm dragging my body down.
Right. So would that be just some soreness, or physically you go to do it and you feel that? Because, like I will feel some soreness for probably a day and a half, 2 days sometimes.
Yeah. Well, so again, in practice, what I used to do when I used to train a lot as a much younger man was I usually used to apply a 90% rule, which was that if I felt like I was 90% recovered from my last session, I could train. Obviously, 100 would be ideal, but if 90 or above, I'm going to train. And if it's below 90, I'm going to not train.
But it's better.
That training then becomes one of those dopamine things and it becomes an addictive thing. You talk to a gym junkie about not going to the gym. What do you mean don't go to the gym?
But in the beginning, it's better to err on the side of do your training 2 days a week if you're really doing training.
Yeah.
And then move to 3 days. Make sure you get in 48 hours between. Don't, especially once you hit, I said I was going to be middle-aged next year because I'll be 60 because I'm going for 120. But if you hit middle age, make sure you have 2 days rest between your exercise. Professor Kay, do you have anything else that you want to give final thoughts on? You want to? I will put links to your multimedia empire in the show notes. Your many channels, and also to your supplements, which for human stem cell release, right? To help that process.
Yeah, look, it's a fascinating product. It's a cutting edge product. This particular one. It's referred to as a nutritional supplement because you've got to put something on the label. A better label probably would be nutraceutical product because it has a very drug-like effect, but it's not one of those things that's been invented by the pharmaceutical industry as such, and therefore it's not on any of those schedules or considered a drug. It's an extract. In our flagship product, the active ingredient is an extract from a blue-green cyanobacter that lives in this one lake, as it turns out. It happens to be Upper Klamath Lake in Oregon, just if you want to know where it comes from. And the company that makes this stuff have a proprietary filtration and activation methodology that means that they can turn this green slop that they did out of the lake into a useful product for human consumption. And it comes in gel capsules as this green powder. And you go, nom, 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 and you take those, and it causes your bone marrow to release a bunch of adult stem cells that wouldn't otherwise get the opportunity to see the light of day. And if you know anything about adult stem cells, you'll know that these are the guys that renew and repair tissues of all kinds in your body. Anything that's worn, diseased, tired, broken down, not working, those cells can be replaced with brand new ones.
And those are the only cells that can do that, just stem cells. No, they can become virtually any cell, not any, but.
The limitations are that these particular ones that I'm talking about, they're called CD34+. They're normally kept in the bone marrow, and most of them that are released throughout your lifespan will end up being red cells, white cells, immune cells. However, these adult stem cells, once your immune cells, red cells and white cells and all of that, once you replete on all of those, if you've still got extra adult stem cells, these guys can become anything. Heart cell, skin cell, not hair follicle cell, apparently. It's not a medical issue, therefore the body doesn't send out a message saying this is a problem, fix it.
Right.
So, it doesn't matter how many green pills you take, I'm not going to grow my hair back. I have heard people that have hair say to me, I was quite grey and now I'm not. So that kind of thing.
I have heard that. Now, I've been saying that mine is getting darker. I don't know that's true. Mine used to be pretty red when I was younger. It's pretty salt and pepper now, a lot of gray.
So adult stem cells are a great thing. And the more you have circulating in your blood at any given time, the better. It's not that you can ever run out of these things. You can't. What can happen, though, and what does happen is as you effectively biologically age, at whatever rate you're doing that, your ability to release your stem cells drops. You will die with the same number you were born with. So it's not like there's a supply run out issue here. Your ability to release them goes down, 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 down. It's programmed in. It's supposed to happen. It's one of the reasons we age, become decrepit, and die. What this product basically does is it tells your bone marrow that it's more like 18 and less like 59.
Right.
And so that bone marrow will start spitting those stem cells out again.
Yeah, as if you were younger.
Yeah.
I will again. I will make sure I will put that in the description along with the links to your pages. Again, very gracious of you. I greatly appreciate it very much.
And my privilege and my pleasure.
And hopefully, maybe someday in the future we can do it again. I'll have a new list of questions.
You bet.
All right. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.